Okay, so today I'm putting 3 Chinese models head to head: DeepSeek V4 Pro, MiMo V2.5 Pro, and MiniMax M3. All of them running on Hermes Agent. I'll give them 2 custom skills I built. The goal is to build me a tiny to-do list web app I can open on my PC or my phone and just use it. I'll just toss these 2 skills to them and let them just go. No babysitting. Whatever they make is what I get. You're the judge. Quick spoiler, one of these made something I genuinely like good enough that I'm replacing my current self-hosted to-do app with it. A quick context on why I'm even doing this. DeepSeek is going to raise prices. Whether the model actually got better, I don't know yet. But my monthly bill is about to jump by $50, so I started shopping around. Look, everyone has different needs, so the value to price ratio is personal. For me specifically, when I'm doing local project dev and when I'm using my server-hosted Hermes Agent as my 24/7 assistant, the requirements are totally different. Hermes Agent on the current DeepSeek V4 Flash is already plenty good for me, so the price hike for me is just a price hike. For Hermes Agent, the level of brain I need can basically be summed up with one task. Can I just chat my way to deploy to-do list app on my server? 0 manual coding. 3 things I want from this thing. First, the underlying data has to be markdown file I can hand edit myself. Second, it has to look decent and feel intuitive on both desktop and mobile, so I can use it on the go. Third, I need to be able to talk to my Hermes Agent in natural language to add, delete, change my to-dos. If it can handle these, I'm good. Anything else I personally need, like finance tracking, skill library, those web apps are all going to be fine. To keep the comparison fair, I couldn't use my actual long-running Hermes Agent, the one on my server with all its memories and skills tuned over months. So I spun up 3 fresh, isolated Hermes Agents from scratch on my local machine. Then I took all the experience and requirements I had banked from building a to-do list on my server before, sat down with an AI, and turned it into a skill doc, about 500 to 600 lines. I fed that same file into all 3 models at the same time and let them go. Oh, and one note, even locally, I don't touch this stuff myself anymore. I had codecs on my local machine handle the orchestration. The first thing that's obvious is time. DeepSeek V4 Pro was the fastest by a clear margin. Xiaomi's MiMo was right behind it, and MiniMax took more than double the time. DeepSeek was done in 7.5 minutes. MiMo took just over 9. MiniMax ran for about 15 minutes straight. The fact that MiniMax took twice as long as DeepSeek actually has a story behind it. I'll get into that in a second. Let me first open these things up and just look at them. Important note here, I was blind tested. I didn't know which one was which. I told codecs up front, I don't want to be biased by model reputation, so I had no idea what I was looking at. You can guess along with me. And let me know in the comments which one you to pick. So, good news first. All 3 demos came out functional on the first try. The features I asked for, all of them. Template task initialization and sorting, new task creation, check off completed, 5-second undo window, desktop and mobile scrolling, all of that core stuff worked. If you're not picky, you could just start using any of this. But hey, I'm picky. Let me go through them one by one. First one, the green text interface. I think this one looks the best. It's smooth, there's no friction using it, there's no issues. The downside is, in my skill I explicitly said new tasks should be default to medium urgency, but this one ships with high, and a few test tasks in there didn't get cleaned up, so they're still sitting in the list. Also visually, the tab labels for the active filter are dimmed while the content underneath it highlighted, which is backwards. It feels wrong. The second one, I opened it and the very first thing I see is a little tagline. Simple, focused, efficient. I don't even know where he pulled that from. It just feels cheesy, like a knockoff brand voice. There's also a small bug. The date field accepts any date you're typing, even complete nonsense. It just saves it without warning. Also, the leftover test tasks here are even worse than the first one. There's a whole list at the bottom that just never got cleaned up. Third one is a dark mode version. I never specified dark mode in the skill, so this might be a model preference. I use dark mode myself, so it felt familiar right away. The good sign is, the list comes in clean. Only the task I specified, sorted by the right date and priority. No leftover test junk, no functional issues either. The one thing that doesn't quite sit right with me is the layout. The unfinished and finished sections are stuck right next to each other, which feels cluttered. So, at this point, before we go any further, do you already have a favorite? Alright, Time to reveal the answers. First one was DeepSeek. Second one was MiMo V2.5 Pro. Third one was MiniMax M3. So, looking at this, all three of these models for a task at this level, they're basically making it in one shot. No molecular bugs, nothing that would make it unusable. There are, of course, issues, but they are the kind you can fix with one extra sentence. That's why I always say, modern models have crossed a real threshold here. But that doesn't mean there's no difference between them. Looking at the UI alone, you might not see much, but there are two really important things to look at. One is the time and speed we just talked about, and the other is internal differences you can only see by reading the code. Let me go through both. First, time and speed. I mentioned earlier, DeepSeek took 7, MiMo took about just over 9, MiniMax took twice as long. I pulled the logs, and oh boy, the tool call record is 3 to 4 times what the others ran. It's not that MiniMax was working slowly, it was just doing a lot of stuff. The other two were done quick, snap, done. MiniMax just kept going and going all the way until the 15-minute mark. And it didn't stop because it was done. It stopped because I had set a 120 turn cap and it hit the wall. One thing in MiniMax's favor though, by the time it actually hit the cap, the program was already runnable. It had technically finished the work, and then it just kept going on top of that for a while. What was it actually doing? I had a quick scheme and found a more complex engineering structure, a ton of tests, and at the end it wrote a really long completion report. That report was over 1,000 lines when the 120 turn cap sliced it off mid-sentence. I had Codex, my chef engineer, sit down and read all these code bases. He said MiniMax's code was the best written, the most complete in design, the most thorough in edge case handling, the most extensive on testing, more rigorous across the board, and the project itself looks the most robust. So in this round, the score Codex gave was also the highest. Now, this is a single round score, and it's coming from Codex, so take that with a grain of salt. It's cyber cockfighting basically. To summarize this round, picture asking 3 people to build a chicken coop. DeepSeek and MiMo took a morning, finished the coop, tested whether the door closes, called it down. They forgot to tighten one little screw on the door handle. Saws and axes were still lying around inside the coop, but the coop works. MiniMax, on the other hand, just knuckled down for a week, built an access control system for the door, disaster recovery, dual platform deployment, 34 acceptance tests, and was still writing the chicken coop project completion white paper when time ran out. It's a bit dramatic, but you get the idea. By now, you can probably see what I said at the start. Every model has its own personality and working style. It's like dating. Some people like one thing, some people don't. Some people like DeepSeek V4 Pro's no-nonsense, get-it-done energy. Some people like MiMo V2.5 Pro's steady, dependable, just solid feel. Some people like MiniMax M3's slow and steady craftsmanship. Different models work for different people. Once you understand a model's personality, you can tweak your prompts to fit. And if it's still not a fit after that, just let it go and find one that suits you better. Don't hold on too tight. Now, they all finished their first task. But this test isn't over. Even for a tiny piece of software, I'm not stopping at it kind of works. If the UI looks ugly, I can't use it. That's non-negotiable for me. So I keep this skill around. That's basically my brand visual design spec. It took me a long time to refine. That to-do list skill I mentioned, the one I dumped on them earlier, was 500 or 600 lines. This visual design skill, it's 1,364 lines. Round 1 was basically testing, can the AI plan a product from scratch? Pick an architecture, implement a whole system, persist data, the from zero full stack type stuff. Round 2 is a totally different kind of test. First, the AI has to read the entire existing codebase and understand the whole design system. Then it has to translate my brand spec, which is abstract, into concrete UI. And then it has to refactor the front end without breaking the functionality, because, pretty is useless if it breaks everything behind it. For round 2, the visual upgrade test, I used the same trick. I didn't let the same agent keep running. I opened up 3 fresh workspaces with 3 brand new AIs starting from zero, only handing them the code, design spec, the logo, and the fonts. Let them read the code themselves, understand it themselves, and modify it themselves. Here's a catch though. For design work, the AI needs eyes. Because if you're just writing code without seeing, you're basically generating a look from feel. It's like asking a blind person with basic aesthetic logic to design a room. They know the couch should go in the living room, but they just can't tell whether the couch and the coffee table looks right together visually. DeepSeek V4 Pro at the time I tested it didn't have vision, so I paired it with a Quen Vision model. Xiaomi V2.5 Pro doesn't have vision either, but V2.5 does. Same family, but you still have to configure it separately. Basically, you're giving the blind designer an extra secretary. The secretary looks at the whole picture, describes the current state verbally to the designer, and the designer acts on that. Information gets lost in translation because image has to be processed by another model into language, then acted on from language. It's not the designer actually seeing it. There is a fraction there. MiniMax M3, on the other hand, is natively multi-model from the ground up. It was trained as a full modality model from day one. That made me pretty curious about how they would compare. So I handed the task to my codex again. No surprise, MiniMax was still the slowest. But looking closer, the time it spent was mostly in phase 1. Phase 2 and phase 3 were pretty close to the others. What was it doing in phase 1 though? I checked the logs and oh boy again, it kept trying to fit the image into Hermes' existing visual analysis pipeline, the one built for the blind models. Spent several minutes reaching out in different ways to that eye secretary. Of course it couldn't reach it. I didn't configure it. After a while, it suddenly realized, wait, I can see images myself. Problem solved, and the pace caught up after that. This is actually a model and agent fitness issue. Things are moving so fast right now. Models, agents, every week there are new things. You can't expect every combination to be perfectly tuned out of the box. MiniMax saw Hermes say, we have a dedicated secretary on staff, went straight for the secretary, forgot it has a perfect vision. This kind of thing is fixable with prompt tweaks. Going forward, I'll just tell it to not to use Hermes built-in visual analyze, and we're good. Anyway, let's get back to the test. 1300 plus lines of spec. All 3 of them finished in one pass. This time I bumped the cap up to 180 turns, so even MiniMax didn't hit the wall. Let me show you the 3 results first. Which one is your favorite? Now let me show you my personal favorite first. This one, the way it handles color, the way the light and dark mode are coordinated, or the small detail highlights, like overdue tasks get a full red bar, due today tasks turn orange, text remains easy to read. There's one tiny detail that didn't quite land. The 3 action buttons on the right, view, edit, and delete. They're a bit abstract, they're just alphabets. But overall, I think the result it produces is straight up better than the UI I've been refining on my own server for days. Pixel style design is actually really hard, by the way. Don't let the look fool you. Oh, it's just pixels must be simple. Coordinating, it's genuinely tough. This one is actually done by MiniMax. Well, being natively multi-model, the result it landed on for me is already a finished product. The completion level is very high. It really matches my taste. Now let's look at DeepSeek's side. This round, the implementation looks kind of plain. Nothing really stands out, nothing really falls apart, just simple and clean. Because the page elements are very simple, the readability is also pretty good. There might be people who like this style more than MiMo 2.5 Pro. Well, MiMo in this turn is very mid. For example, the old school CRT monitor transistor effect I wanted, MiMo didn't pull it off. That's actually an important retro effect. Otherwise, the pixel style ends up looking flat and monotone. Look at the earlier ones. They all had horizontal scan lines in the background, giving it depth. I checked the MiMo's code. It's not like the code is not there. It's just the transparency is too low. You just can't see it. One really interesting thing about vision in this round, I pulled the mid-process state from each of them. The moment after they finished the first pass, before vision feedback kicked in. You can see, without the visual loop, all 3 designs look pretty similar. My skill was already pretty prescriptive. Even blind, the models can feel their way to something close. But once the vision feedback loop kicks in, I think MiniMax M3's aesthetic ability pulls clearly ahead. The changes the other 2 made in response to vision feedback were cosmetic, no real difference. or almost reverse optimization. For example, I actually prefer DeepSeek's version from before the visual model feedback, and MiMo's mid-state still had the CRT scan lines, but the final version dropped them. I don't know why. But MiniMax M3 on the other hand, you can see that after receiving the visual feedback, the design added another layer. It saw the logo area's black border looked ugly, so it added a 45-degree shadow on the top. It saw the 3 action buttons weren't pixel style, so it temporarily replaced them with pixelated text. It saw that the CRT scan lines from phase 1 didn't make it in, so it added them back. Every step was a meaningful improvement. Honestly, that was more than I expected. But I think this all comes down to personal preference, so let me know in the comments which one you like the best. A quick mention of price, though I can't really compare apples to apples here because I used DeepSeek and MiMo via API, and MiniMax is on the Talks Plan Max, which I'll get into. DeepSeek used only about 25 cents, and this was before the price hike. Also, that doesn't include the Quen Vision model usage on top. MiMo came to about $50 total, including the V2.5 Pro usage and the V2.5 Vision. MiniMax is a token plan, so I can't break it down by API key. The thing is, I've been using it as my main model for Hermes agent for the past couple of days. I've earned 0.3 billion tokens, and when I checked the weekly quota, I haven't even hit 30%. So I did some napkin math. If I can run 1 billion a week, that's 4 billion a month. Way more than enough. And the plan itself is around $20. This sounds a little too good to be true, but of course I need to keep using it for a little longer to figure the real usage out. But regardless, going back to the start, DeepSeek is about to hike prices. Last month, just on my server-hosted Hermes using DeepSeek V4 Flash, the lower tier model, I burned through 1.5 billion tokens and spent about $16. For roughly around the same money, I can get a MiniMax token plan max. And MiniMax M3's model capability is well above DeepSeek V4 Flash. It's on par with DeepSeek V4 Pro. So price-wise, that's already a win on its own. And on top of that, this plan bundles image generation, video generation, voice generation, music generation, the whole deal. That's a huge advantage while running it through Hermes Agent. Otherwise, each feature needs its own API. It takes time, effort, and costs extra. So after the test, right now I've plugged MiniMax M3 into Hermes Agent as my main model. If I have any long-term feedback to share, I'll keep making videos like this. If you've tried MiniMax M3, please leave a comment below and tell me how it goes. If you got something out of this, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe. If not, watch another one. See you next time.